My life, your lessons. Knowledge shared through the experiences of a prison felon turned business founder by Michael Durrell Comer. Publisher page. Copyright. Printer's key. This is the first edition. It may be a few typos in here still. Some I got to work on for the second edition. All ISBNs. Library of Congress. About about the author. Michael Durrell Comer is a genuine stand-up guy who knows what he wants in life and has been through enough to know what he doesn't. He has avidly stated that his mission on earth is to provide a helping hand to anyone willing to accept it. Along with being a great mentor, Mr. Comer is a successful entrepreneur, dedicated philanthropist, educated scholar, and community activist. Mr. Comer's criminal record may not be the cleanest, but he has been able to admit his wrongdoings to move forward in his journey through life. Michael Durrell Comer is a son, brother, father, and friend. But most importantly, he's just like you. Opening note. First, I would like to express my gratitude by thanking you for electing to take a chance on picking up this book as being worthy of your time. I appreciate your support. My inspiration for developing this knowledge, oh sorry, my inspiration for developing this literature came from an epiphany I summoned upon inside the walls of the penitentiary. Cohabitating with fellow inmates, I heard a collection of stories. Let's just say some more believable than others. I related to and agreed with some. I'll call them bull on the rest. However, I was able to gain facets of knowledge through my observations. I communicated with a broad assortment of people, ages 18 to 80, some first timers like myself and others repeat convicts, all of us serving sentences ranging from a year or less all the way to life. Amongst interacting with my peers, I was staggered by the irony of the multitude of prisoners who dreaded the confinement of the penitentiary, yet had preconceived notions to return to the exact activities in which led them behind bars in the first place. The linear mind states around me seemingly gravitated towards what they knew best, despite the inevitable consequences. The only hypothesis I could fathom was that my fellow peers were either completely insane or simply satisfied with failure. Or maybe they haven't hit their head hard enough yet to feel real pain. Because as we all sat in prison, it was radiantly conclusive that our previous irrational behaviors solely generated us total desolation. Let's change the conversation. If we want new results, we must demonstrate new patterns. My grandpa always told me I was hard headed. He also said a hard head makes for a soft. Believe me when I tell you, he never lied. Of all the education my elders anointed me with, it took for me to experience rock bottom firsthand before I began to put credence in the wisdom they were sharing with me all along. My vision with this book is to share with you the knowledge I've gained through firsthand experiences in hopes of you relating to a portion of, if not all of, my testimony, furthermore inducing you to relinquish that aha moment in which ultimately encourages you to revamp your perception on life. The mission is for you to learn a lesson from the consequences which I have already persevered through, so therefore you don't have to. I will provide you with the valuable insight capable of influencing you to open your mind and later your thought process and alter your thought process, preparing you to pursue your potential opportunity to succeed. Everyone has a story. How will yours end? Excuse me. Can I ask? Can you hear me? I hope so. All right. Dedication. This book is dedicated to all the greats who led the path before me. My grandparents, Michael and Patricia Comer, who taught me that anything is possible, and to God, who carried me along the way. Thank you. In memory of G, G, and Grandpa, Uncle Michael, Uncle Marcus, Uncle Ronnie, Grandma Mabel, Uncle Bob, Aunt Marie, Uncle Bernie, Uncle Doug, Dewan Burley, Devin Smith, Marshall Smith. Rest in peace. Introduction. Life is a cruel teacher. She loves to give you the test first and the lesson later. A quote by Damon John. Consider this book your cheat sheet and not your personal tutor. Allow me to empower you as I profess my impaired choices, which led me to both turmoil and triumph. Table of Contents. Chapter 1, The Basics, From Experiences to Consequences. Chapter 2, MVP, Morals, Values, and Principles. Chapter 3, Change, Creating New Circumstances. Chapter 4, Environment, Surroundings and Associations. Chapter 5, Goals, Desirable Objectives with Purpose. Chapter 6, Faith, Complete Confidence and Belief. Chapter 7, Addiction, Powerlessness. Chapter 8, Communication, Expressing and Receiving Ideas, Design, Integrity, Adhering to a Code of Honor. Chapter 10, Education, Mentally Developed Knowledge. Chapter 11, Employment, Laboring to Generate Earned Income. Chapter 12, Parenthood, Providing Unconditional Love and Unlimited Support to your offspring. Chapter 13, Finances, The Value of a Dollar. Chapter 14, Health, Possessing and Retaining a Clear, Powerful, and Stable Mind, Body, and Spirit. Chapter 15, Success, The Degree of Achievement. A, Author's Outro. B, Appendix. C, Resources and Inspirations. D, Contact Page. Chapter 1, The Basics, From Experiences to Consequences. Everyone has experienced something in their life. Experience is something that one has actually done or lived through to gain a conscious perception or understanding of reality or of an event. Whether you experienced a positive situation or a negative situation, each of those situations had an outcome. Every action has a consequence. When a person experiences something, it becomes a moment to learn, a moment to create and gain knowledge. Knowledge is attained through several forms of experience, the three head of the list being to physically encounter something hands on, visibly watch the outcome of an event play out, or be verbally taught the consequences of a situation. Though some may encounter similar experiences, many will have different perspectives on certain situations. Some see the glass half empty, others see it half full. It starts with our own core beliefs. Think of a core belief as a seed planted into your subconscious mind, which is fed by created knowledge gained through experience. Core beliefs begin to become instilled in us from the very day we are born. Because from the very day we are born, we are constantly surrounded by all sorts of influences in which we learn from. The first core belief I can remember creating for myself happened as I was mildly electrocuted. When I was a toddler, no more than 3 years old, I climbed down from the dining room table with a metal fork in my grips, snot dripping down my nose, and a horrible idea on my mind. That afternoon, I made the decision to skip my lunch and put a metal fork into an electrical outlet, causing me to be shocked by a volt of electricity. I think it's safe to say that we all know the consequences of this situation. Whether we were told by someone, seen it happen visually, or like me, learned by experiencing it hands on, we know that playing with electricity can cause great pain, severe nerve damage, or potential death. Fortunately for me, I encountered the least devastating of the three and only reaped great pain. After gaining knowledge through this experience, I quickly created a strong core belief about meddling with electricity. Even to this day, I can say I have a bit of a phobia. Before gaining this knowledge, I had no experience on the subject, therefore leaving me with no core belief on this particular matter. At the young age of around 3 years old, the main core belief I valued at the time was to feed my curiosity. My ultimate goal was to get into as much as possible by experiencing everything hands on. Core beliefs will continue to exist in our subconscious mind whether we make effort to influence them or not. Core beliefs will grow stronger as they are fed with gained knowledge. Core beliefs don't disappear, they only transmute into new beliefs depending on the type of knowledge they are fed. Once a seed of core belief is planted and fed, it then begins to blossom into thoughts. Thoughts then almost instantly evolves into feelings. Prior to establishing a core belief about misusing electricity, I thought that putting the fork into the outlet would bring me some type of joy. For that reason, I felt curious and excited. These thoughts and feelings crystallized into my actions, which in this case was me placing a metal fork into an electrical outlet. Every action has a consequence. My actions in this situation caused me to experience intense physical pain while being electrocuted as a result to my behavior. Thoughts immediately follow after core beliefs. Thoughts are most susceptible to change. Once we change our thoughts, the rest of the cycle will continue to trail behind. After experiencing this situation and creating new core beliefs on the subject, I then created new thoughts and feelings, which led to new actions and consequences. The new core belief I developed was the understanding that abusing electricity will cause both physical and mental anguish. I use this information to feed my belief by categorizing it as harmful and believing it to be something not to be played with. My new thoughts pertaining to this matter were simple. I thought it was a bad idea, period. My new feelings were cautious and fearful. My new actions consisted of me veering away from behavior that will induce me to encounter a similar experience. This included staying clear of all open face electrical outlets and equipment, especially as I bared metal objects. The consequences I received due to my new actions concluded to be rather positive. They rendered me from being electrocuted a second time and allowed me to keep my potential risk of death by way of an electrical outlet by excuse me, my potential risk of death by way of electrical shock at a minimum. Okay, so now we went over the basics, which long story short is created knowledge gained through experience and through influence develops core beliefs. Let me say that again. Now we went over the basics, which long story short is created knowledge gained through experience and through influence develops core beliefs. Core beliefs induce thoughts that are then followed by feelings. Feelings lead into actions or habits, and it will always assume a consequences and will always assume a consequence, whether it is good or bad. I think I'm getting over the nervous part. All right, so this is a graph of the basics. Basically, experience turns into core beliefs, turns into thoughts, turns into feelings, turns into actions and habits, which always have a consequence, which then repeats the cycle. Your consequence becomes your new experience. Create your new core beliefs, your new thoughts, feelings, actions, and it always repeats. With that said, I want to share with you the other half and perhaps the most important factor to this entire equation. Though the cycle itself is a permanent constant, what we put into and get out from it can vary. As we feed the seed of core belief with new information, it can begin to alter our perspective on the matter at hand. The format of the cycle will stay the same, but the outcome of the patterns may change, just as it did for me after I learned the consequences of playing with electricity. The next fact, the next factor I want to explain is that none of our actions or behaviors are automatic. They must first go through the cycle. Despite our knowledge on the subject, it is ultimately our decision as to how we think and act in certain situations. For instance, just because I experience the consequences of pain, fear, and anguish from my encounter with mixing metal and electricity does not mean that the next time I have metal object in my possession that I automatically won't repeat the same actions. Regardless how much pain or fear it caused, I myself have to make the decision to choose not to perform the same actions. Even before this incident, I had the power of choice. Choice is something we all have. It is our birthright. The difference between my choice making from then to now is that now I have absorbed new knowledge and am no longer ignorant to the consequences to this particular action. For me to continue to do the same thing expecting different results would be pure insanity. Therefore, I chose to change my thinking and behavior patterns. The last thing I want to point out about all this is that we have to be extremely careful as to how and where we collect our information. So many times we are steered in the wrong direction without even realizing it. We can receive false or negative information and or feedback from someone who actually has genuine intentions on helping us in a positive way. The only problem being that his or her understanding or outlook on the specific situation is inaccurate or negative. Initially, we may believe this source of information to be true and correct, therefore inducing us to absorb this information as valid as we begin to feed our core beliefs with it. On a more menacing note, we can also receive false information from a source that deliberately manipulates the situation and attempt to slander another party or create a gain for theirself by misleading others. This can also take place unbeknownst to us. No matter the form of false information, no matter the form that false information comes in, we are not, if we are not mindful, it has the ability to shape an incorrect perception of reality for us. So once again, I say we must be cautious to how and where we collect information. We have to consider the source's knowledge, experience, and beliefs, as well as their thoughts, feelings, and intentions. We seek to gain knowledge and intentions. When when seeking to gain knowledge, and entrench positivity into your life, remember this: KYP, know your personnel. If your toilet is broke, don't call an electrician. Know your product. Don't search an almanac when looking for the definition of a word. Know your positioning. If you're at a prison, don't expect inmates to erupt with pleasant comments about the police. This information may sound simple and basic, but if you can grasp onto the idea of thinking about what you're thinking about and embed into your mentality to not be misinformed by misinformation, then this small amount of intelligence can be applied to make a serious impact on your life. Let me get back. Chapter 2, MVP, Morals, Values, Principles. Morals, values, and principles are all part of a close-knit family. Principles are defined as a basic truth, law, or a rule or standard of good behavior. Values are principles, standards, or qualities. Excuse me, I feel like I didn't read that right. Morals, values, and principles are all part of a close-knit family. Principles are defined as basic truth, law, or a rule or standard of good behavior. Values are principles, standards, or quality considered worthwhile or desirable. I'm gonna have to fix that. You say I'm going through for edits too, so I'm gonna write that down. That's what I'm gonna do because I'm going through this. I'm gonna write down my little what I want to change for the second version, second edition. Let me put page 6, first paragraph. That's the goal of this, really, just to kind of see if I can feel good about reading it out loud and any type of little edits for the next version. Okay. Morals, values, and principles are all part of a close knit family. Principles are defined as a basic truth, law, or a rule or standard of good behavior. Values are principles, or quality standards of standards or quality considered worthwhile or desirable. The definition of morals is rules or habits of condition, or the principle taught by a story or an event. Okay. To elaborate on these definitions provided by Merriam-Webster, I would consider morals to be personal guidelines that draw the line between our most deep beliefs of what is wrong and what is right. Values are desires that we cherish closely in high regards. The way I describe principles is the reason for the reason. What I mean by that is they are the initial basis for how behavior is or should be conducted. Let me break these terms down to a more personal level to where you can relate. Growing up, I spent a lot of time living with my grandparents, Michael and Patricia Comer. They both put vigor effort into instilling precious morals into my consciousness. My grandparents taught me to believe that it is wrong to lie, cheat, and steal. They taught me that respect and integrity are some of the most important characteristics of a man. I was also taught to stand up for what I believe in by being a leader and not a follower. I proudly, va- I proudly valued these morals immensely as I applied them as the principles to living a lifestyle that would please my family. Later down the road, I gravitated towards running the streets and began to value the fast life. I glorified the lifestyle of fast money and fast woman as I thought it would be the only way of living. The principle of the situation was to get as much money and have as much sex with as many women as possible, as fast as possible. Valuing this negative lifestyle, I began to go against my deeply rooted morals. Although I may have enjoyed the initial pleasure of accumulating large amounts of money and having meaningless sex with numerous women, the behaviors I performed to attain these things at times were wrong and afterwards left me filled with compunction. I found myself chasing unhealthy values. Values set the tone for what we conform to believe in and how we choose to get there. Therefore, if we intend to live a positive, meaningful, successful lifestyle, it is essential that we pursue healthy values. While I was serving state time at Faribault Correctional Facility, I was mandated to enroll into an 8 to 12-month criminal and addictive thinking treatment program. I was very reluctant at first. My core beliefs didn't support the idea that I had a problem. I only believed that I committed some crimes, got caught, and was serving the time to pay for it. I thought this with a so what type of attitude. The last thing I wanted was a label put on me as some type of mentally ill, drug addicted treatment patient. However, for the sake of me truly wanting to turn my life around and become a better person for my children and family, I decided to let my guard down, sign the enrollment papers, and open up to the treatment process. So, anyways, back to the point I'm trying to make here. I remember being in the orientation lecture conducted by the program's lead therapist, and he asked us all a simple question: what do you value in life? Instantly, we all started roaring out answers as the therapist began to write them on the board. The therapist turned away from writing and said to us, "These are all great examples of healthy values." Well, let's just call it out. So we all screamed out val- that our values are family, health, success, safety, freedom. The therapist turned away from writing and said to us, "These are all great examples of healthy values." Then he followed the praise by saying something that was disturbing to hear, but was real nonetheless. In his own words, he said, "While you all were freely running the streets as criminals and addicts, these ideal, healthy values were viewed in your eyes as false values. And your true values consisted of unhealthy values that look more like this. He began to start writing on the board again. Homies, gangs, drugs, crime, criminal code, fast life. The therapist concluded by sharing with us that if we have any desire to endure a lifestyle that includes us refraining from returning to prison, we have to transform our state of mind to acknowledge, prioritize, and pursue healthy values as our true values. The room halted to a cold, abrupt silence. We were all impacted by this powerful statement. As I continued to analyze the information at hand, I referred to my own personal experiences to relate. It was apparent to me that I was indisputably employing unhealthy values as my true values. First of all, instead of me putting my family above all, I was more interested in hanging out with my homeboys. I'd wake up, get dressed, and head straight to the block where we would parlay, sell drugs, and entertain the females of the neighborhood. Many nights I didn't return home or even show the decency to call and check in. Meanwhile, I was deserting the ones that actually cared for me. I left my grandparents at home with caretakers as they suffered from life-threatening illnesses. I deprived my two children of quality time to bond with their father, and I neglected an amazing girlfriend during my long sprees of hanging out with my so-called friends. Along with selling drugs, these long days and nights included me using drugs as well. I would smoke blunt after blunt like I didn't need lungs. I drank alcohol like water, and I popped pills as if they were candy. These habits demonstrated minimum concern towards my health. I continuously put a tremendous amount of effort into committing crime. Although I've been convicted of numerous charges, I got away with far more than have been accounted for. This is a reflection of me not aspiring for success in anything positive. Because if I did have such aspirations, all I would have to do was put that same amount of energy and effort into establishing and accomplishing positive goals rather than negative ones. Crime brought with it the criminal code. By me supporting the criminal code, I put my safety in disregards. For example, after being the target of a shower of bullets while parked at a gas station, my vehicle was identified, which later led to me being apprehended and questioned about the event. After viewing the surveillance video, investigators wanted to know who was shooting at me. Even as I knew exactly who was aiming to kill me, I believed in the criminal code and chose to stay silent. The decision put my safety at risk because it left enemies free to roam the streets with opportunity to potentially take another shot at me on any given day. Examining the facts in perspective, I realized putting these unhealthy values ahead of healthy values caused me heartache, remorse, shame, and dismay, not to mention costing me my freedom. It was evident that I had to reevaluate my true values and make a change. Win lose. One day I heard somebody say, when you win, you really lose. That's something I didn't understand at first, but believe me, it's actually true. I was in the streets, I was living the life. Everything seemed to be cool. I had it all, my pockets filled with green, but inside I was feeling the blues. I won respect, I earned my stripes, I upped my weight, I served the hypes, but I lost once I lost my sight of what was wrong and what was right. I won, I was out there getting that bread. I lost, my kids needed me home instead. I won connections, I met the plug, all I did was push a pack. I lost quality time with my grandparents, now they're gone and can't come back. I won, every time you see me, I was driving the flyest whips. I lost, always driving paranoid, 'cause I never drove legit. I won. I hit that lick and counted out them bands. I lost. They caught me slipping and jumped me over their grams. I won. Having sex unprotected without catching a disease. I lost. Women having babies, claiming the daddy was me. I won soon as I doubled up. Excess on the scale. I lost when the feds caught up to me. My body held as bail. I won a family. They were by my side, down for any cause. I lost their trust and respect. I played the game all wrong. For every action, there's a consequence. Sometimes you win but lose. The decision of choosing what's winning or losing can only be made by you. A poem by Michael Durrell Coleman. Chapter 3. Change. Creating new circumstances. Change is one of the most difficult tasks difficult tasks a human faces. It is also at times the most necessary objective that one is yet to accomplish. We can tend to become so familiar with the situation that we begin to create a comfort zone. The mere thought of change can bring with it fear and anxiety. Even when change is for the better, we are sometimes unwilling to take advantage of the opportunity. This is a trait we must focus on in order to reach success. Before I could begin to live a positive lifestyle, I had to make some major changes in my thoughts and actions. This included my beliefs, behaviors, and values. The longer I continued to repeat the same habits, the worse my circumstances became. It started for me as a youngster. I began by breaking small rules, disobeying directives, and throwing tantrums. My behaviors earned me spankings on my butt when I was at home and timeouts in the corner while at school. Following my disciplinary consequences, I would still continue to misbehave, not for the reason that I enjoyed the spankings and timeouts, but for the reason that I was seeking attention. I thought that changing my actions would strip me of the attention I was receiving due to my behavior. As I got older, my behaviors evolved. Small rules turned into big rules. Tantrums turned into raging anger. And besides disobeying out towards authority figures, the consequences grew steeper as well. The spankings turned into whoopings with the belt, and I would also lose privileges such as talking on the phone, playing video games, or going outside with my friends. While at school, the timeouts turned into detentions and suspensions. Even while receiving this new, tougher, and stricter form of discipline, I continued to perform the same disobedient behaviors during this time, along with okay, during this time, along with seeking attention, I was aiming to create a name for myself, searching for where I could fit in amongst my peers. I was seeking acceptance. The years progressed. I was coming to the age of a young adult. By this time, I've already gained acceptance in my community of peers, yet my negative habits persisted. The rules I used to break became me breaking laws. My raging anger was no longer verbal. My expressions became physical. Rather than lashing out towards authority, I began to avoid authority altogether. I skipped school and spent days at a time away from home. I became rebellious and refused to accept consequences. I insisted no more suspensions, no more whoopings, and no more restrictions. Throughout these experiences, I nurtured a fully blossomed seed of core belief. I believed I would do what I want when I want, and if I say I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. No one can stop me. Skip forward into my adulthood as I'm living my life according to my thoughts, feelings, and behaviors relating to the core beliefs I have established since the JIT. Even as my habits caused me to face circumstances of going to jail, being kicked out of my home, creating chaos in the streets, and neglecting those that loved me, I was content with the way I was living and had no intent to change. By this time, I was so comfortable, I was afraid of change. I feared change because I feared losing my identity. I wanted to stay true to my beliefs. I wanted to stay true to my beliefs and prove anyone wrong if they were to challenge me on it. I feared criticism. I didn't want to be viewed as unauthentic as if I was trying to be something that I wasn't. I feared poverty. I couldn't see myself giving up my illegal activities in which put money in my pocket. My perception was ridiculously profound. Engaging in these beliefs and fears left me vulnerable to not only become familiar with, but also oddly satisfied with failure. It took for me to hit rock bottom before I took personal inventory on my life. As I stretched out on the cold slab of penitentiary concrete, confined in a solitary lockdown cell, or in other words, the hole, I came to the realization that doing things my way was only producing negative results, and I knew I had no one to blame but myself. Spending time in the hole put me in the position to be introduced to my other self. For the first time in a long time, I was thinking rationally. Although I was incarcerated, I was free from all my past associations, influences, and temptations. My mind was finally clear. I used this moment of clarity to make the decision that enough was enough. I convinced myself that I wanted more out of life than an inmate number or an early grade. I understood that by hitting rock bottom, my last option was death. So at that moment, I took the first step towards change. I accepted the fact that it must happen. I prepared myself by identifying my issues. I believed what I had to change was everything. I would just start with altering my thought patterns. Instead of focusing on what I suspected to be the cons associated with change, I shifted my focus to recognizing the pros linked with change. I mentally destroyed my fears and developed my new attitudes into allies. I let go of the fear of losing my identity as I prepared to transform my beliefs to create an entirely new identity. Rather than fearing criticism, I was ready to embrace criticism and use it as a tool. I then altered my mind state to no longer fear poverty, but to pursue wealth. I feel it is better for us to chase after what we want than to run away from what we don't. After preparing myself mentally, my next step was the action stage. It was time to put my money where my mouth is, so to speak. Anyone can say what they're gonna do, but to follow those words with action is the real test. The only other thing tougher than putting action towards change is maintaining change. Failure can occur with no effort at all, but to succeed requires desire and persistence. Persistence. I don't know how many times I woke up hungover from the night before and told myself I would never drink again, to only find myself later that night the first person with the cognac bottle to their lips. I don't know how many times I said I would stop gambling, how many times I told my girl I wouldn't cheat, or how many times I promised my family I wouldn't return to jail. It was always easier to stop for the moment than it was to pass up on the opportunity as it represented itself. Once I was able to maintain positive change in my thoughts and habits, my circumstances drastically changed for the better. My relationships grew stronger, I stayed out of jail, and my finances were more consistent. Everything in my life became more manageable. Maintaining change is an everyday battle, whether it is staying sober, being faithful, or avoiding becoming an inmate number. No matter how much good we acquire in life through change, we could lose it all in an instant by one minor slip. I now live my life one day at a time. Looking back, I wish I didn't take so long to make change in my life because in doing so sooner, I could have avoided a lot of misery and misfortune. I say to you, don't wait to hit rock bottom. Commit to a better life today, right now, this second. Change could be the difference between life and death. If you continue to regress downwards, eventually you will have nowhere to go but under. Believe me, the grass is greener on the other side. Chapter 4: Environment, Surroundings, and Associations. Environment: the circumstances, objects, or condition by which one is surrounded. You might have heard of the saying, people are a product of their environment. Don't be fooled by this statement. True, the probability of us replicating the conditions illustrated by our environment is significant, but this does not mean because we are surrounded by a particular type of environment that we will, without a doubt, imitate those influences. We always have the option to utilize our power of choice, no matter the circumstance. Plenty of times, people go on to achieve greatness that have come from environment of the opposite, just like a person that can be surrounded by a positive environment to only live a negative lifestyle. As we are most susceptible to influences, the goal here is to sustain from unhealthy environments to grant ourselves a higher percent chance to accomplish success by surrounding ourselves around healthy environments. At first glance, the task of evading unhealthy environments may seem to be an uphill challenge, simply for the reason being that a lot of us reside in inner city communities where the crime rate is just as high as the poverty rate, while the rate of education is at a minimum. If this is you, if this is you, don't be discouraged because this was me too. Actually, it still is me. To this day, I live in the middle of the hood. The difference for me now, living a healthy lifestyle in an unhealthy environment, is that rather than concentrating on the fact that I live in a malicious neighborhood, I began to divide my environment into separate sections. I acknowledge the reality that there are environments inside of environments. Check it out. If you walk outside your front door and see drugs being sold on your block, a liquor store on the next, a gun shop down the street, and a gangway around the corner, it can be easy to allow these influences and opportunities to persuade you to participate in and associate with the activities and peers of the environment. I know this because I myself spent most of my years doing as the Romans do. As it was simple to be drawn in, it was extremely challenging to get out. The way I escaped the pressures of this atmosphere was by first discontinuing my negative peer associations. It goes back to the basics and KYP, know your personnel. As I soared for success in my life, associating with failures will bring no benefit. Therefore, anybody that sold drugs, carried pistols, or used chemicals was depleted from my life. Soon later, my contact list consisted of only select family members, my kid's mom, and my one law abiding, responsible, true friend named D. Like I said, it's hard to break loose from negativity. However, if we truly want to endure a healthy, crime free, responsible, and sober lifestyle, we must take initiative to eliminate interactions amongst unhealthy relationships by setting and enforcing boundaries. I understand that sometimes our relationships with negative peers can hold a strong bond, but we have to be willing to evaluate the situation and assess the fact that if nothing positive is coming from the relationship, it is time to make the decision to sever ties. I, al- I also understand that regardless whether one's association comes in the form of a romantic companionship or a friendly camaraderie, a relationship is a relationship. Thus, emotions will be involved between both parties. With that said, you can expect the other party to feel devastated, betrayed, or even resentful towards you as the association and communication dissolves into a complete non existence. Be prepared for these people to talk down upon you behind your back, making false claims of you being this or that, while you attempt to, while they attempt to while they attempt to smear your name and reputation. Take note that when it's all said and done, none of these comments will matter because you'll have moved on to experience the best of what the world has to offer, while they will continue to be bound to the same redundant, unhealthy lifestyle that you left behind. My advice to you would not be to retaliate to any of the other party's behaviors, for they are only hating on you. Most likely, the reason being that they are angry and jealous that you chose better for your life, and they wish that they had the same strength, courage, and wisdom to do the same. As misery loves company, haters attempt to build their self esteem up by trying to tear yours down. Long as you don't let hate phase you, it can never defeat you. Personally, I use this form of criticism as a positive tool to measure my success. It seems that the more success I obtain, the more haters I have hating on me. In return, ensuring me ensuring me that I am indeed doing something right. Fuck 'em. Fuck 'em all. Okay. Title. Fuck 'em. Fuck 'em. Fuck 'em all. Not one of them I trust at all. They all tell the same story. I just listen when they talk, acting like they got my back, but actually won't walk the walk, saying that they'll hold me down, but then excuses seem to spark. Me, I always kept it real. I never had to lie to them. I was down for anything. They knew that I would ride for them. I put my life on the line. I showed them that I would die for them. Now I'm saying bye to them. I wasted too much time with them. Fuck 'em. Poem by Michael Durrell Coleman. After disengaging from negative peer associations, the next aspect to breaking your environment down is being aware of how you navigate through physical surroundings. Those making moves in the streets call this cutting the city in half. The objective is to avoid contact with anyone or anything that may prevent forward progression towards reaching the destination of our intended goals. This phase can be a reflection of the basics in KYP, know your positioning. Say you just bought a brand new pair of expensive original Air Jordans, and your goal was to keep them mint as possible as you wear them out as the final contribution to complete your elaborate ensemble. You know when you step out into the environment, you will be faced with elements in which may jeopardize the integrity of the shoes. This could include someone stepping on them, poor weather conditions, or you yourself performing an action that soils, scuffs, or creases the shoes. With all the possibilities of damaging the shoes and coming short of reaching the goal of maintaining their quality condition, you will become very mindful to how you maneuver and where you position yourself in the environment. You will notice yourself moving more gracefully while being more cautious of the surroundings. You will also neglect muddy or wet terrain. If achieving this goal meant enough to you, you will find yourself willing to do things you normally wouldn't do, as well as putting a cease to the things that you usually would. So if you were in the middle of the block and had to walk down to the corner to the intersection just to cross the street in efforts to avoid walking through the grassy boulevard, you would do it if that's what it took to uphold the shoe's quality grade. Though any other occasion, you would just cut straight through. Or if you were known as a dedicated basketball player and were invited to go play a game of ball, you may decline the offer due to the fact you didn't want to crease the shoes. Under any other circumstance, you will be the first to the court. If you're a shoe fanatic, aka sneakerhead, like I used to be, then you know everything I just said is absolutely true. What else is absolutely true is the fact that these same tactics of awareness and avoidance can be translated into how one orchestrates their movement and positioning in any environment while intending to reach any lifestyle goal. Whether describing the life of a criminal addict in the streets or a law abiding citizen on the straight and narrow, each have their own unique intentions and goals as they set forth into an environment. The criminal addict aims to indulge in mood altering substances while committing to illegal activities as he or she attempts to avoid contact with law enforcement or anybody else in that nature who disagrees on how they conduct their behaviors. This is totally different from the intentions of and goals of a law abiding citizen. A person on the straight and narrow aims to retain sobriety while diverting away from crime and prohibiting themselves from contact with negative associations, influences, and temptations. When I was running the streets making moves as a criminal addict, my agenda was simple: get money, get high, and don't get caught. so I positioned myself accordingly. In my hood, I was the go-to guy when it came to looking for your fix. I was serving weed, cocaine, ecstasy pills, and prescription pills. You name it, I had it. And if I didn't have it, I could get it. I was also a user of most of the drugs I advertised. If I wasn't driving around the area making drop-offs, then I was loitering outside of the corner store down the street from my house, networking in efforts to obtain new clientele. There were days I stood outside that store from 8 a.m. until it closed at 10 p.m. That or until the police drove by too many times, whichever came first. I was a regular customer at the liquor store, to the point the owner knew me by name and even knew my favorite bottles. There were times I walk in and he'd pull out a bottle from under the counter that he was saving just for me, knowing I would come in and buy it before the day was over. I made good use of the gun shop down the street as well. I would trade people drugs in exchange for them to purchase gun accessories for me. My collection included 30-round extension clips, laser scopes, and specialty ammunition. I spent countless hours by the gangway closely associating with my so-called friends, as we all encouraged each other to perform illegal acts and enabled one another to use drugs and alcohol. I kept my distance from anyone who didn't agree with my habits. Besides dodging police, I was avoiding communication with family and supporters that truly cared for me and wanted to see me do better. They would consistently attempt to persuade me to withdraw from this horrid lifestyle. I dismissed their request as I convinced myself that they were interfering with the progress of my intended goals. In the midst of my mayhem, I refused to be interrupted. So if it meant I had to take the long way, navigating through back roads to reach my destination in order to avoid intertwining with common police routes, I did it with no hesitation. I would also ignore phone calls from my family as well as skip holiday events for the reason of not wanting to experience the sense of shame and guilt I would receive after my family pled with me to change my ways. It was not until these poor habits propelled me to hit my rock bottom breaking point did I commit to change and choose to live the lifestyle of a law abiding citizen. After being released from prison, serving the remainder of a 57-month sentence, I was dispensed right back into the same environment I was part of while living as a criminal addict. Although my surroundings are identical, the way I position myself inside this environment has changed dramatically. No longer am I the dope man in my neighborhood. I know that selling drugs again would be detrimental to my recovery and contradict my change. The corner store down the street from my house is still up and running. Only these days I'm not the one standing outside of it pushing packs. The liquor store is still in the same spot too. I'm just not a customer anymore. Nothing against the owner Sam, but since sobriety has become such a major role in my life, it's been a few years now since I've even stepped inside of that place. The gun shop continues to sell guns and accessories, and the gangway is still occupied by my own associates. They're still committing crimes and smothering each other with drugs and alcohol. See, the world doesn't stop its motions, and the game of life always stays the same. The only thing that changes is the player. It is up to us to choose how we will execute our game plan. Ain't about what you walk away from, it's about what you walk away with. A quote by Lil Wayne. Now, when I navigate through my environment, I treat my MVPs, freedom, and sobriety as if they are that brand new pair of Jordans on my feet that I refuse to tarnish. Unhealthy surroundings and locations are interpreted as piles of mud, and my goal is to keep these shoes in superior condition for the remainder of their days. Clearly, I wouldn't stomp through a pile of mud with expectations of my shoes surviving unscathed. In comparison, neither would I participate in unhealthy doings with expectations of healthy results. Identical to how I used to dodge police by taking the long way to reach a destination, I apply the same effort in taking the long way to avoid unhealthy associations, influences, and temptation. I don't shop at the same store, drive down the same streets, or enjoy the same activities that I once did before. During these days, I'm actually living my life legit, The police bring me almost no worries, and my family and I are closer than we have ever been. It feels astounding to me to finally be able to introduce my other self to those who care for me and to share this experience as a changed man with my family. I'm grateful to now be a part of my children's life while providing them with the presence of their father where there was once a previous void. Nowadays, you couldn't pay me to miss a family gathering, and the only people you'll find me ignoring is those old so-called friends of mine that hope to one day see me return to the streets. As I broaden my perception beyond the surface of my immediate environment, I have come to unravel an environment inside my environment. Throughout the many years I have lived in my current location, I didn't believe it had anything positive to offer. However, I recently noticed a small cafe across the street from the liquor store, and after ditching my alcohol use, I discovered that I enjoy a good cup of Java from time to time. I found out there is a family-owned thrift store behind the gun shop. Since unveiling it, I've donated countless boxes of clothing and a myriad, myriad, and a myriad of miscellaneous items to support their cause and continue to do so this day. I refuse to go to the old corner store down the street, so now I purchase my convenience items from the gas station on the main road about a half a mile away from the house. Sure, this option demands more travel time, but this new route has allowed me to avoid situations that could be hazardous to my livelihood, and you can't put a limit on that. All in all, the universe reacts to attraction. Whatever you choose to engulf yourself in, either mentally or physically, leaves you only a matter of time before it stems into habits and circumstances which then unfold as your reality. If you hang out around four criminals, chances are high you will eventually become the fifth. You drive past a liquor store enough times, and before you know it, you're a full blown alcoholic. This is the law of attraction. Make your environment make you successful. Be aware of your surroundings and position yourself to avoid unhealthy situations. Circulate in new groups. Stay clear of haters and petty thinkers. Associate yourself around people who are going somewhere with their lives and that want to see you succeed and want to see you succeed as well. If I can make it here, you can make it anywhere. Chapter 5. Goals. Desirable objectives with purpose. Positive goals are essential to success as air is to life. In fact, it is fact that we cannot achieve it is fact that we cannot achieve anything great in life without first obtaining a desire to establish and conquer objectives. A goal is the end towards which effort is directed. Without goals, we cannot grow. No further steps are taken until a goal is established. It's not about where we were or where we are. The important thing is where we want to get. We are continuously establishing and conquering goals throughout each and every day of our lives. Sometimes these goals seem so natural, we tend not to notice them as being goals. For example, the task of bathing seems so natural, we think nothing of it, yet is one of our major daily goals. A goal is more than a vision. It is a vision acted upon. We will only accomplish what we plan to accomplish. And the only intelligent method to attain a goal is to approach it step by step. Reaching a major goal will require one to complete several minor objectives to gradually proceed in surpassing the ultimate goal. Some goals demand more time and effort than others. If you are faced with adversity during the procedure, don't be dismayed, for defeat is only a state of mind. No one is ever defeated until defeat is accepted as a reality. Anything worth anything usually isn't accumulated in an instant. Diligence and persistence is key. It's best not to dwell on or become overwhelmed with the necessities of a project, but to purely focus that energy on getting that project done. Take into account that even our Almighty God Himself took several days to exceed His goal of creating the world. So if it takes you a week to piece together that new bookcase of yours, so be it. Just don't give up, and you'll be fulfilled with the reward of success upon completion. 5 steps to conquer a goal. Step 1, desire. To yearn with intense ambition. Develop the want to do something. Step 2, belief. To accept something is true. Build confidence that it is attainable. Step 3, plan. To design a harmonious strategy. Assemble a detailed plan. Chapter 4, persist. To continuously persevere. Perform diligence. Experiment with new approaches. Overcome adversity. Endure hardship. Chapter 5, achieve. To successfully accomplish, complete. To successfully accomplish, complete the final objective. It's one thing to dream, it's a whole other thing to put in the work to make those dreams come true. All my life I had dreams of being wealthy and successful, but I never put in the correct effort to accrue these things. I had the want with no plan. Failing to plan is planning to fail. In the instance I did have a plan, I went about it the wrong way. I had a belief that hustling, robbing, and pimping was going to take me to the top of the success ladder. In actuality, these plans of mine only landed me in worse predicaments than I was in originally prior to the inception of these self claimed great ideas. Rather than rising up the ladder, I was declining further down the totem pole. The occasions in which my plans were positive and possessed potential to drive me to success, I failed to persist. The reason being I was obsessed with instant gratification. I wanted what I wanted instantaneously. I had no interest in demonstrating patience, nor did I have the urge to perform diligence. This abject way of thinking eventually influenced me to completely abandon my sports endeavors. During my adolescent years, it seemed all I did was play sports. Not only did I play, I actually had skills. It didn't matter if I was on the basketball court, football field, baseball diamond, or even the golf course. I was an athlete with the will to win and the ability to give any opponent more than a fair amount of competition. People who believed in me say I likely could have went somewhere playing sports if I only would have stuck to it. Soon later, due to my lack of discipline, I was also quitting jobs. Nearly every job I acquired throughout my lifetime came with it above average wages, benefits, opportunity for advancement, and retirement funds, all in which I could have taken advantage of to cultivate into lasting careers for myself. Unfortunately, my commitment wasn't there. Being so narrow minded, I brought myself to believe that I could reach my goal of wealth and success faster and easier than working a legit job simply by following through with my plans of hustling, robbing, and pimping. With every 2 week paycheck I earned, I looked at it and thought to myself, I could make this in a day. As a result of these thoughts, I resorted to attempt to make a living in the streets. Honestly, I can say there were days that my street money intake did outdo my old 14-day paychecks, making everything seem worthwhile at the moment. But on the flip side, the benefits included with this lifestyle were feeble. Unlike a stable job, there's no financial security in the streets. Each day's economical and conditional situations are unpredictable. Between the product supply running dry, meals going bad, sorry, between the product supply running dry, deals going bad, and police seizures, the capital of a career criminal can fluctuate in a flash. A criminal can go from feeling like the man to nobody giving a damn, all in a matter of moments. The opportunities for advancement that life on the street has to offer are trouble filled and undesirable. A person aiming to make a career out of crime will experience its level of severity escalate in due time. One may start off strictly buying drugs from a supplier in order to resell for profit until he or she advances to robbing suppliers of drugs in order to sell for free profit. Fist fights in the streets advance into shootings in the streets. Misdemeanor offenses advance into felony offenses. As a result, the criminal advances deeper into the justice system. The retirement plan in the criminal field consists of only two options: dead or imprisoned. Simple as that. There's no way around it. Today, if you were to ask me if pursuing my plans of robbing, hustling, and pimping bred wealth and success into my life, I'd swiftly reply, no, no, and hell no. The things I went through in those days solely amounted to failure, and the money from those experiences is all long gone. I was better off working part time at a fast food restaurant. At least it would have kept me out of trouble and left me with something to show for my efforts. On a positive note, what I did gain through my experiences was new knowledge in regards to goals. The most eminent piece of insight I found along the way that I would like to share with you is: when establishing an ultimate goal, be specific and focus on the objective, not the purpose. Emphasize on what you need to do rather than what you want to come from it. Being less vague with your goals leaves less room for gray area and uncertainties. I'll use my goal as wanting wealth and success as an example. By me wanting wealth and success, I left myself with too much space in the middle for error. Wealth and success don't just appear, there are consequences of actions, making them more of a purpose than an objective. One needs to direct efforts towards performing tasks with the purpose of obtaining wealth and success upon its completion. In this scenario, to achieve wealth and success, setting a goal such as starting and operating a profitable business would be a noble objective to strive for. With this major objective in mind, one must be primed to execute the minor objectives linked with this goal. If done efficiently, the ultimate goal and desire of wealth and success becomes attainable. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying operating a business is the only way to gain wealth and success, for there is an unlimited amount of routes that can be taken to reach any goal and satisfy any desire. Utilize the 5-step formula and make your own path. Take control of your life. Don't leave your future to chance. Always know where you want to get. Develop goals to help you get there, and never give up. Anything is possible. That's the first 5 chapters. I think I'm gonna sit this down. This is my first time reading in a while. I'm gonna sit this down, have chapter 1 through 5 be a part, chapter 6 through 10 be a part, and chapter 11 through 15 be a part. So this is part 1. I appreciate y'all coming through the live. Share this. The first 100 people to share this, subscribe to the YouTube, and then come back and comment done. I'm Cash Apping $1. Not a lot, but it's interaction, showing support, getting involved. That's all. I appreciate the opportunity, and meet me back here either later today or early tomorrow for part 2, chapter 6 through 10. The universe is in your hands.